beginning of war, 1662, by my formulation of how the rules are supposed to go here in Grand Siecle. Sure, I'm still mispronouncing it terribly that way. Siecle at least sounds fluid, but Siecle, I suppose, is how it is more. Anyway, not putting the stress so blatantly. And unfortunately, in a sense, we're playing a different game now. We're not playing the rules that we had here. We're playing the war rules. They're similar. There's no question. But it's only 1 year at a time, which is what we had. But we're also only playing the fall section. And that starts off with a diplomacy phase. Oh, we get to make new alliances and such? No, we don't. There's no political phase set in here. There's no action on the diplomacy. That comes in the spring. So each year is going to contain everything pretty much that the general peace phase has. But here we're going to have a diplomacy, a naval, a military, a life, and a victory point phase. And that's it. Now, the diplomacy doesn't mean much then. You could, plot out your strategies, maybe make some vague plans for later turns in terms of the war phase. But the only effect that we have here, the only thing we have to worry about, we have a higher initiative for the Spanish. So the Spanish alliance, the Spanish-Swedes, get to choose who goes first at any given time. I have to make a quick roll to see if the Poles or the Russians get the advantage there. Okay, so the Poles are going to have the advantage. Oh, wait a minute. I lied. I think whoever declared the war. Good God, who declared these wars? Russia declared on Poland, France declared on Spain. So I think France may have the initiative actually in the other one. And Russia certainly had... I don't know if it's the initiative or if they have to move first. Let me see. So prestige wouldn't be an automatic anyway. It's just a +1 to the die roll. But yes, France and Russia have the initiative in these phases. Which means they get to choose who actually gets to go first. Just make sure that's not different on the first turn. Okay. Well, if we look at this thing, we're going to hit the naval phase. And these two wars are going contemporaneously. So sort of Russia and France are going to be operating at the same time. And the other two alliances will be operating at their same time in each of the different phases. So we hit a naval phase. Now Russia has no navy, Poland has no navy, so they're not going to be involved in this. France has kind of a problem. They don't have much of a navy. Noteworthy thing, these navies that are under building, new troops, none of that's going to happen. That happens in the spring phase. So in a sense, that's baked into the peace turn. The ability to build up just before a war is already present there. So the French aren't going to move their navies, but what about the Spanish and Swedes? Yeah, we're going to perform some operations there. So the Spanish, they already paid their cost for shipping here, but we're going to slip these Neapolitan troops into whatever that French colony is. And we've just grabbed control of it. Now, I need some other kind of control marker to indicate temporary ownership, but that's fallen, essentially. Other navies, well, I can't do anything about this. These guys are in a military port, so they're protected by the guns. I can't run the guns in this game or anything. How about the Swedes? They would like to ship some troops into play to get them into some sort of effect in this game. I'm not quite sure whether I want to launch one fleet out to maybe, go take an Indian territory. That doesn't give me much. But then again, neither does taking French territory give me a whole hell of a lot. Which is more advantageous? I don't know. The big thing here is that I'm trying to protect Flanders, but I want a payoff of some sort from this. And I kind of want it... access to some sort of port. So we'll probably go to the Indies. Let's see what we've got here. We've got 2, 3, 4. So cav count is double. So I've got 4, 5, 6, 7 things I've got to move. And I've only got 4 fleets. I would like to get these suckers into, say, here at Brussels. So if we move 3, bring a cav and our artillery, we'll bring our general, and we'll just sail down there. All very simple. No chance of interception. There's no enemy here. I could have stopped here and picked up these guys instead. And then I'm going to set sail with an infantry. And this is a long-range operation out to India. Now, I think it's a 5 or a 6 is a risk. I don't remember. Uh-oh. Better look that up. Actually, out to India, it's a 4, 5, or 6, and it's not just a risk. This is floating out there at sea. This unit is actually dead. It's rebuildable, but yeah, that was, you know, kind of painful, right? I had some hopes. Okay, well, that I think is the extent of my naval phase, which means I go to the regular military phase. And that, of course, has its own rules and its own sequence spelled out there. What I should really do is build up a sort of unified sequence of play. There might be one in one of these, but I probably can't read it effectively. Okay. So now any of the neutral players get to move, and they were able to do this with the naval too. We might actually see some of that. Let me step back to the naval phase and see if anybody wanted to move. So, for example, the Dutch, they see 3 English ships out here. I don't have a Dutch, I want Dutch parity there because I have, I think it's the Danes here. If I look, oh no, I have Portugal allied with me there. So until there's a war, I can't sail the Portuguese, and they can't leave the map anyway. So I'm gonna move some of my military power out into the Caribbean to directly face the English. This isn't, I don't know if it's strictly, let's send one of my admirals out there too. Although actually I could just play him out there. So that's not a big deal. Let's keep them back with the rest of my forces. I don't need him there yet. Okay. Let's see if the English... Okay, so the Dutch had to go first. Now the English have kind of this troubled position where, what do I want to do? Well, I'm going to just pull back the English fleet, you know, giving me overwhelming superiority in Europe. And this is kind of the weird dance that's going to go on, whoever went last. Anyone else got boats who was at play? Not really, but there's this, you know, there's a competition between those two. The Turks have boats, but I don't think they have any interest in the rest of the world at this point. Okay, so now the neutrals outside of the warring neutrals, or outside of the warring countries, I'll just shake these up and take a quick look and see if anybody has anything they terribly want to do. Probably not. So yeah, I didn't want to do anything there. So now we're on the alliances. I'm going to worry about the French first, and then I'll worry about the Russians. Although these could be happening at the same time if you had different players handling the different sides of the game. So the first thing is army formation. This is just kind of defining what my stacks are, and they're already defined. movement, segment, and reaction. So my movement is something, well, it depends on whether I have a depot or an artillery or all kind of crap like that with me. If you remember, infantry has 3 movement points, artillery 2, depots only 1. These guys have an artillery. I'm going to push into... These guys are all gathered here in Aragon. Here's the question, you know, do I want to fight everywhere? Is basically the real option. And I think the answer is largely yes. I'm going to march up into the Franche-Comté here. That's really something that's kind of useless to Spain. They shouldn't even be defending it in a sense. I want to get Artois, but I've got a big army I've got to face. So I'm going to push into there. Now, as each of these moves is being made, the Spaniards have an opportunity to react. And how does that work? They're going to roll, add their leader value, and succeed on a 5 or 6. If it's an interception, they can immediately fight a battle. Now, my problem here, of course, is that I'm being caught without my Swedes, which is kind of problematic. So here the French are only going to move to there. The Spaniards are going to attempt an interception. They haven't revealed a leader yet, so I don't think they get to make a roll. I'm not quite sure. Or I don't think they get to look for a bonus. But they do slam in and get an immediate attack there. So I'll kind of mark that they're attacking with that. Meanwhile, the French have these Alsatians. I'm not quite sure what to do with them. They're in a stupid location. I don't have anywhere I can put them except pushing them also into the Franche-Comté. But by doing so, I could be intercepted. Of course, I can be intercepted by not doing so too. By not moving and declaring that I'm not moving, I give the Spaniards an opportunity to intercept, and we'll see if they're going to take that. Okay, so the Spaniards march out of Franche-Comté and launch an attack up here in Alsace. And now I've already moved this big force here. I'm not sure why I have such a large force that was positioned down here, except that it was planning on preventing any kind of Spanish invasion from Italy. All right. Well, I think that's where we are. So now we have, I guess, battles are going to take place here. But before we have that, I think we have the attrition. So each power rolls a die for attrition. The result affects all armies which contain more than 1 regiment. Regiments that are in their recruitment region are ignored, as are artillery and depots. Now, this is, I think, only for the currently active player. What's up with supply? If you're within your national territory of all the constituting regiments, or if the owning player pays money. Okay. So let's take a look at what my attritions are going to be. It says each power, but I think it's only the power at play at the moment. So let's take a look at the French here. How many regiments do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 regiments. So that's +1. Enemy presence puts me to +2. The army is not isolated. The region's not devastated. It's not in an Arctic zone in fall season, except for Russian and Swedish armies. The Arctic zone, I don't remember precisely how far it goes, but I know like Russian home territory is that. We'll look that up because the Poles are going to have to cope with that. They're not protected. So we were at +2. There's no depot. The army is not in supply unless I pay. France is going to pay $1 to supply this army. I've got a couple of armies I've got to supply, but this is a nice big meaty stack. So I want to take that. So now I'm at only +1. And if the modified roll is 5 to 7, I'm going to lose 20% of my army. Yep. All right, in terms of regiments. Now, I said there were 5 regiments, so I lose a French regiment on my march in. Okay, and we got other attrition checks here. I'm here in Franche-Comté. Let's take care of this one next. This one's more problematic. I only moved 1 space, which is good because I have a depot there. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regiments, which is +1. Enemy presence, +2. And, well, I'm going to supply this army. Well, wait a minute, it's got a depot. That puts me down to +1. I may not want to take attrition losses as heavily on this thing. Of course, there's no enemy presence there, and I'm at war. I don't have a lot of money left, you can see. I'll supply this one. That puts me at an even die roll. And I get a 4, so I get away cheap there. For the others, let's see. I'll just take care of them offline. Attempt to withdraw with these guys. That should have been in the reaction phase. Again, I need a 5 or a 6 because I don't have a revealed leader. And I don't get away. Okay. Now, I launched an attack with the Spaniards there and there. We have this space to consider where the French want to launch an attack. So they have to search, and only armies commanded by a leader may search. This is why you might want a king on the board. The Spaniards do not want to search. This requires a 4 through 6, but the leader adds +2, so I'm almost guaranteed to find him with Condé there. And I do, right? Yeah. Okay. So Condé's going to attack here. All right. Now, I would guess we get to actually fight. And, well, let's work our way up. See what we have here. A lot of cav. We reveal the leader. It's just a 0 leader. That's not going to help much. And we're facing a somewhat weaker force with a better leader. The morale of both these armies is standard 2-point morale. The French are going to get a +1 to their die roll. The Spaniards have, I believe, twice as much cav, so they get a +1. If it rolls 4 to 6 on a modified die roll. Do I have 3 times as much cavalry? Yes, I do. So my modified die roll, yeah, this is complicated, is at another +1. So I get that. So both sides are at +1 now. Who has artillery trains? Both sides have 1, so nobody gets an advantage there. So both sides are going to be at a net +1. And that's fine because they're leaders, they can do that. And now we count the number of regiments and fire at each other. Now, the order you do these battles can actually influence your decisions conceivably. I don't know how to handle this, but I hope that's not a cav. Okay. So we've got 4 regiments here and 5 for the Spaniards. I'll use the yellow die for the Spaniards. Both are a +1. Okay, the Spaniards did not do well. They only kill 1, whereas the French also kill 1. There's no requirement to take cav, so they're each going to lose an infantry unit. pull these guys off the map. Pretty simple combat system, actually. Now, at the end of every round, an army can decide to retreat, but we have to worry about this demoralization factor. An army is demoralized when it lost more than its morale plus leader value. You know what? I'm going to keep these out to count losses for this battle. Just want to make sure that doesn't count attrition losses. I thought something did. Okay. So, it's demoralized if it suffers more losses than its morale level plus leader value. The morale levels of these two armies are 2. We're okay right now. I think the Spaniards want to stick around another round. To me, the ratings should be the same as they were, so we try to get back to this table. And both sides should be a +1 still. We're looking at our numerical superiority as being kind of the advantage here, perhaps. But the French, because of their higher commander, have a morale advantage, essentially, in the battle. The Spanish rolled really poorly, though. And they do so again. They still cause a casualty. The French do not. And now the French are a little worried. I think they want to withdraw here because they don't want to wait until they're, well, they're not close, they're not routed yet. But they are losing their numerical edge to some extent. So maybe this force can come down and cover for them in the Spanish border. So if they choose to retreat, they roll a die. On a 6, they're going to rout. And this would only be a limited rout. Oh, that's not good. They lose half their artillery trains and half their depots, and the victor gets to fire once at them. Well, there's their artillery train, and we're firing. Are there no modifiers on a rout, I believe? Yeah, tactical bonuses are ignored. And I only get to fire on the 1 to 2 column. Now, I remember something about Cav being involved in this. Only in the bigger routes. Okay. So I have a very limited chance on a 5 or a 6 I hit. Yeah, I kill another unit. That was a 6. That doesn't have an asterisk, so I don't lose any Cav for that. And now we make leader loss checks somewhere. Now, how big a battle was this? The French had only 4 units, so we gotta look that up. That makes this a minor battle, so it's gonna be a 1 PP differential. I think this may be temporary PP. I gotta look that up. Nope. The declaration of war is temporary PP. Okay, and maybe refusals for peace and such not are. All right, let's see now. Leader loss check is in here somewhere. Uh-oh. Oh no. All right, I need some, oh, there it is. Roll 2 dice for each leader. On a 12, he dies. Okay, so we roll for the Spaniard. And we roll for the French. It's an unlikely occurrence. And the Spanish get a victory in the south. Now I'm going to put these all back so they don't confuse my representation. Let's go to the next battle. Over here, the Spaniards are attacking. They got the interception or whatever. Now they only have 2 units, an infantry and a cav versus an infantry and a cav. We're not going to see any modifier there. The French have the artillery bonus. Both sides have a leadership of 1. So the French are up +1 on this fairly simplified combat system. Oh, we got devastation possibility here. On a 5 or a 6, that hex would be devastated. Or space, the one where the battle was. Okay. I just want to take care of that now. So now, we're both at 2, and the French, using the red die, are at +1 on the die roll for their artillery bonus. We both have morale. 2 + 1 is 3, essentially. So we can wipe each other out. How big a battle is this? 2 units is a minor battle. So there is a prestige point in play. And the French get a 4, which does nothing. A 2, which does nothing. Both sides kind of want to fight this out. The French feel like they have to shift their forces down, and the Spanish feel like this is as close to an even fight as they've got this turn. They might be able to cause some additional problems. There's nowhere really for them to go either. So this time the French get a 4, and the Spaniards get a big 5. So the Spanish cause a loss to the French. And now here we are with 2-to-1 odds, but it's not sufficient to get you any kind of column advantage on this particular firepower table. Of course, the French are wiped out if they take another loss. They may want to try to withdraw. Yeah, I think they're going to try to pull out of this battle. That means they lose, but... So they're doing a fair retreat. On a 6, they get a rout. Oh, shit. That die sure is rolling high. Well, this is a limited rout again, so on a 1-to-2 table, and no bonuses anywhere. And the Spaniards don't catch them. So the French can pull back, and the only place they're allowed to go is Franche-Comté, because they control it. This is now Spanish controlled. Who actually controls the space at any given time? I've got to keep pieces down. There aren't sort of generic fortress. Oh shit, I forgot to pay for fortresses. Oh crap. The Spaniards definitely wanted to pay for this one. I don't think anybody else wants to pay. I'm not too worried. Yeah, the French can't pay for Troyes. I think it's $1 for the Spanish to pay for their fortress. I got no idea how to mark that either. But yeah. Okay. And I don't know if there are any fortresses over here. I doubt it. Moscow, I think, is one. I'm not terribly worried about having to pay for Moscow. Alright. So I could put some blank counters or something on any other fortresses that I can find on the board. I don't know where I'd find them. Well, Troyes. That should have a blank. Okay. But that's just going to confuse me. So, that's another point for the Spaniards as they win another battle. And now we're going to go to this battle. This is a rather large... Oh, devastation chance. 5 or 6 for a minor battle. I wonder where I hid the dice. They've got to be around here somewhere. There they are. No. Okay. And then I'll take care of this battle. It's a big complex one. Let's see what we get. I really wanted to get away from Condé. He doesn't have a lot of cav. He's got 2 cav, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. I think he's outnumbered by artillery. He has the cav advantage. Oh, there's only a chance of the cav advantage working though. And he's facing an equal leader, another 2-point leader. So we've got 4 units to, what, 6 I said, which is different tables. The Spaniards have +1 for artillery. The French have a possible +1 for cav. See if I can get that. Twice as much cav, +1. Yes, they get it. So both sides are going to be +1. The French have the better size at 6. Now, here's the thing. In terms of resiliency, both sides can take 4 hits. Now, the Spaniards can be wiped out by 4 hits. Let's see what we get. Bad roll for Spain. I think the red die is croc. Okay. So that's going to be 3 hits on Spain and a star. And the Spanish do nothing. Oh, I forgot to roll leader losses over there. Okay. So there are my hits. And let's make a check to see if I can get out of there. I'm going to try a normal retreat. That takes me a 6 to get out of there because I'm not demoralized. And I do. I get out safely. I'm in my own little stack here, but I can define an army with the Swedes. Let's do leader losses for this battle. Oh, this was a bigger battle, right? 3... No, still only 4 regiments. Still a minor battle. So there that goes. Leader loss checks. Spain. France. Uh-oh. Ah! I just lost Conde. And I gotta figure out something to do with the dead. For now, I'll put them up here. But yeah, that's an important little hit there, but I've taken Brabant. The important thing was wiping out the army, and I feel like I more or less did that. The Swedish army is just not strong enough to face me. Now, they can take a siege in that fort. Devastation check. I didn't make that check. This was a minor battle again. Nope. Leader loss checks for these guys. French... Spanish. Now, if these guys are lost, they go back in the pool, but the pool doesn't mean they're available. The only way to get new leaders, except at the beginning of the war, is to do this pensioning or land grants or something to generate more leaders. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to, that doing it right at the beginning of the war doesn't make a lot of sense. You've got plenty of leaders at the beginning of the war. Okay. Now I'm going to be moving over here to the Russians, who are going at the same time as the French are. I'm going to put some dice on the Russians to remind me, because I need a little bit of a break. So after seeing the French turn, the Russians definitely wanted to go first rather than second, so they could consolidate their troops, and they've marched into a couple of locations. Now, I have to worry about the attrition values here again, and we got some potential losses there. Geez. Let's see, we gotta pull this over and then start sliding this. So size, presence. Okay, so let's look at this one. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 units. All right. 8 units is a +1. Enemy presence puts me to +2. I don't know whether or not it's Arctic zone, but it doesn't matter. These are Russian units. So I'm at +2, but I can spend for supply, except Russia's out of money. So now, +2 puts me at a third. How many did I say? 8 units? That means I'm going to lose like 3 right off the bat. There's the disadvantage, of course, to going first. Although you get to consolidate, you also take your attrition losses first. Let's see if the Poles can pull out of there. Now that was 2 movement points were spent by that stack, and it's got artillery, so they won't be able. Actually, the pullout should have happened first if I can find it. What is it? I think it's a 5 or 6. Yeah. I want to get out of there because I want to consolidate my forces, but no, so the Russians get an attack here. Over here, these guys went 2 hexes. They captured Bryansk on the way in. Again, I need little markers. Let's see if the Poles are able to slip away here into... Let's pull them back this way. Now, this stack actually has another move, and I could continue marching into here. And this causes problems for the Poles because they don't have an opportunity to consolidate their force. This guy's already attempted a reaction, so the other guy can attempt a reaction to try to force a combat first. He does not. So now we have the attrition check there, and again, this is now Russian controlled because they've just marched through it. They can do that. There's no fortress, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It may seem very fluid, but remember, this is an entire season, you know, at least 4 or 5 months of campaigning, probably. Well, 3 or 4. So this is again at +2, and I'm safe there. And I'm gonna try to search again for those. Now here I have to make a check too, but I am automatically in supply because I'm in my own territory. It says 5, but my guess is there's probably an Estes unit in here, maybe. Oh no, no, it's only 4 units. So I'm going to be rolling with no pluses no matter what. And they're fine. Alright, and that's some of the troops from here and some that fled back this way. You know, realizing this combat system does not work as I'd expect. Alright. So now I have searches. Now my searches are 4, 5, or 6. I'm going to search for the smaller troop here. I do not find it, so I don't get to keep searching, and I'll search for the only unit here. And I do not find it. So no battles on the Russian side of the turn, which means the Poles are going to have their opportunity to launch battles. I think move them first and then go back to the Swedes, just the Swedes and the Spaniards, just because of a balance issue in terms of the board. My focus is over here right now. I gotta be careful. This is a Polish unit. So many different little random steps. Minsk has been retaken as the Poles consolidated their forces. They had an artillery in this unit, so they weren't able to, say, keep marching onward. There was units sitting here, but they just absorbed them. You're allowed to absorb units as you move. This stack had to do the same. It did a consolidation, moved into here. There was no attempt to intercept. There was an intercept attempt here, and then moved back in. Now they've got to make a search check, and they've got the straight 4 through 6. They don't get to reveal a leader. And yes, they are going to find the Russians. And each side only reveals 1 leader. Now they can reveal the other leader later. I've already checked attrition in both cases. There were no losses. And now we go to the battle itself, and wow, we have big stacks here. I don't know what my morale is. Oh boy, I know what the Russian morale is, but this Polish morale is more complicated because this unit only has normal morale, or has feudal morale, and the other units have regular. So let's see which we have more of. It looks like we have more feudal units, which is bad news for us. It also looks like we have 4 cav, the majority of which are, well, not feudal, but the average is the same. And we have an artillery present. I'm going to put this battle marker. So this is the thing, you have this battle retreat choice, but it's really not that big a deal. I'm going to put this here just to mark where my battle is. And for the Russians, everything's feudal, so there's no real question there. I only have 2 cavs, so we've got 2-to-1 cav there. Let's see what the chance of that taking effect is. Twice as much cav. Over 50% is a penalty there. So they're going to have a +1 tactically, +2 for the artillery. And their morale is the same. Leadership is the same. I'm only allowed a +1. I'm not allowed the +2 because my leadership's not good enough. I need a 3 or 4 leader, right, or a 2 or 3 leader to get the higher value of tactical modifiers. So now I count up my things: 2, 3, 6, 9, 4, 7, 10 to 6. So we'll use the red die for the Poles, and 6 puts us here. Total losses available, 1 for each side. We must fight the first round, and we actually can't even withdraw after the first round. I think I cheated in one battle there. Nah, maybe it's before the first round. No, at the end of the round. So yeah, I cheated there. No biggie. So +1 for the red die on the bigger table. I'm going to be causing 2 hits. +1, no plus there. That's going to cause 2 hits. Both sides take 2. Neither side has to take any cav. We'll put these here. I have tons of Russian cav. I was seeing these as infantry because they were up with the eyes on them. Okay, both sides are now demoralized. Well, there's special rules for that. Only the one who's with the most losses in the battle is demoralized. Well, that's both of them. Does that mean neither is demoralized? I don't know. I would say yes, because neither one has the most. So, first person to take more losses is going to be demoralized here. I have to fight another round. So I'm at 8 to 5, which is both on the same table. The Poles are at +1. Ooh, that red die is nasty. Does 2 more hits to the Russians. No cav required. The Russians have been demoralized now. At which point it's allowed to try a retreat. And we're going to do that because we're not doing well at all here. We are not pursued. Quick leader loss check, Russian, Pole. How many was the smaller size? Smaller size was 7. I think that's a big battle. That's a major battle, which means 2 political points are going to shift hands. Poland gains 2. Russia loses 2. And these are real losses here. Devastation check on a major battle, I think, is 4 or more. So we're going to get a devastation marker. That's not a devastation. Over here. And the Polish army gathers. And I think its morale has gone up for its next battle. If it chooses. that is, I believe, the end of things there. Ooh, we got to worry about winter quarters. I've forgotten about that. Before I go further, I better check those. I find this problematic, and I thought so when I first saw the rule. So the way winter quarters works is there's a winter withdrawal. Now, the way this is written in here, it seems to be in one player's operations phase. The army has to be in a fortress who is enemy can. Well, it has to end up in a location with a friendly controlled space. That means the fall turn becomes ineffectual. The first player can do something, then he has to withdraw. The second player then could, I guess, attack the guy in his winter quarters. That just sounds really crappy to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the winter quarters outside of this and say it's the end of the sequence, allowing everything else to stay in a per side basis, but the winter quarters really doesn't make sense to me that way. Maybe that's what's intended, but it seems pretty wacky. All right, now I got to think about the Spanish actions. I'm actually good on winter quarters here. I've got to put a little marker there to indicate that that's Russian. That's not quite all. I've got to worry about the possibility of dispute here. If I hold this for 2 seasons, some of these areas are disputed areas. So, for example, Minsk, Berezina, and Pripyat are Polish-Russian. Minsk, I think this, no, that's Berensk. I don't know. I think this is Berezina. And Pripyat is down here. So those are 3 areas that could change hands in the midst of a war. I don't know how to keep a little numerical track of when they were captured. At this point, none of them have been held, so that's not a big deal. And we do not have, these are all mainly eastern areas. We don't have any disputed areas over here, so I don't have to worry about that. Those have to actually come over in a formal treaty. And I got my stack mess that I got to fix again. So for the Spanish turn, the first thing I did was consolidated these units. These guys can't intercept because they do not have a leader. So these guys can march in, and I'm going to try to run away with the French. I've got a leader, so I'm a little better at it. I'm not going to be able to get very far, though. Okay, so I slip ahead 1 space, and that means the Spaniards can keep marching. I can't keep running. And so we'll have a Spanish attrition there at, what, 4 units. We're at +1 for enemy occupation. We gotta find the damn chart. You know, I'm sure this is all actually in the charts, but I can't have more papers open. That ain't it. Alright, we'll keep looking. Where's attrition? There it is. Okay. So yeah, we're currently at oh, I forgot to worry about what the Arctic zone is, but I'm pretty sure it's not Poland. I don't want to look in the damn appendix right now. So right now I'm at what? +1 for enemy presence. I can throw a buck in to keep the supply, so that neutralizes it. I do not roll high, so I'm okay there. I didn't roll for attrition on these guys. Some of them are not Spaniards. My total value there, I'd be at no pluses. I don't have a very big stack. I think it's worth $1 for a -1. Spain will fund the war. They have the cash right now. And that was a good choice. This stack is more problematic. I'm sitting here in Alsace. I own Alsace now. I can, I guess, supply from it or something? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, my attrition check isn't that bad from it, but here's the problem. this guy can try to intercept me, and he needs a 5 or a 6 to do so. And I got a problem. I can't combine stacks, but yeah, now I've got a battle there, and now I've got my attrition check there, which is now opposed at +1. It may not be worth paying money to try to save this. I think these guys are just doomed if they are successfully searched for. So I'm not going to pay a buck on them. It's a +1. Okay, we're fine. All right, let's take care of the French attack first. Put that into play here. I better put these not where they are. Okay. So the French have 2-to-1 cav, that's worth +1. They don't have a good enough leader to make the artillery count for anything. The Spanish have a +1. Morale on both sides is, well, no. Morale on both sides is 2, but the Spanish get an additional 1, so they could lose 3 units. Yeah, whatever. They're going to be rolling on the 1 to 2 table, the French on the 2, 4, 5 table. Both sides are at +1. Spanish cause no losses. The French kill 2. That's going to be a successful minor battle. The Spanish leader is automatically captured, killed, whatever. The French leader may or may not. Not too big a deal. And so now he has successfully found his way back into Alsace and taken control of that. Now I got a deal. Put these somewhere and I'm on a damn tether. Okay. And now the Spaniards are going to search here, and I got to put a little Spanish marker there to let me know that I sort of own that. I don't know how to indicate, you know, this is the same problem I had with EU. How do I indicate something's temporarily held? I need a whole new counter mix for that. The Spaniards do find the French. The French had already withdrawn. There are not a lot of them. So this is just a skirmish. It's not worth any points. Spanish probably have the cav advantage. Let's make a quick roll. Yeah, but they don't have a leadership enough. So they're only at +1. The French are also at +1. We're looking at 4-to-1. A 3 will do a hit. A 2 will not. The French lose their good leader. And I can't reach. Okay. We've made it here. I need some control markers for those. And I need to see what else happens in the turn. Well, what else happens in the turn? Winter quarters. Does anybody have to withdraw to winter quarters? I think everybody's sitting in a legal winter quarters at this point. Which means we shift these pages over, not bumping those. Go over here. And we're on the life phase. Well, I gotta find that. And while my camera's all tangled up, I'm not gonna be able to do it. So I'll do a couple other things at the same time. I cheated last turn. I don't think it had an effect. There is no life test in a general peace phase. It's just if you're 2 years over your leaving date, whenever that is, if I can read that. God knows how I'll be able to do that on the counters. Jesus. Yeah, I got no idea. Right. That's the most unreadable thing on the counters. I basically am going to have to go in with a magnifying glass on every single counter when that happens. To see whether or not people die. All right. Hopefully nobody's got one right now because I'm not in the mood to do that. At this point, every single wall, every single power, this doesn't matter whether it's you know, a power that's at war or not, they can still lose their life, which makes, you know, kind of no sense or less than no sense when you compare it. Hey, if it were a general peace turn, you know, England's at peace. How come they're affected by this in this way? I also forgot my Poles have this corruption shit that they could have used to prevent something or another. I can't remember what. Random event chits are always hell for me. I like cards. Those work okay. I can sometimes remember what I'm doing with them, but when it's chits that I have to look up into a rule book, that's always a pain in the ass. Well, we had one effect. Montecucculi actually died. I wonder when he was supposed to go. Like 32 or 52 or some number like that. Yeah, that's the other problem. I mean, they're unreadable, so, you know. One problem, so one thing, you know, I love games like La Grande Guerre, and Russia is pretty decent too. I think Hispania also uses random event chits. In all cases, I'm almost always forgetting to use them. In La Grande Guerre, I forget to use some of the technology, some of the special stuff. So, you know, to some extent, you can just write it off as, okay, I forgot, you know, no big deal. It is kind of irritating and frustrating when it happens, but I can live with it. So now we're at the final thing here. Assuming no sovereigns are dying. Again, I have to check all those dates. Poland's the next one. It looks like it's 67 unless... No! Spain's monarch is about ready to croak. Which is to say, after next turn or starting next turn, I'm not sure which, he makes life checks every turn until he dies. Now in the peace phase, he'll die during the peace phase if he's gone significantly past. Now I'm at the victory point phase. I'm going to write these suckers down. And then I make a single roll to see whether or not things are affected, whether or not they move towards the middle. Briefly, these are our current victory point values. Everybody's at about the same rate, which makes sense. Nobody's moving too much. You know, it's winning in the margins here. May make some of the, if I start giving these bonuses on a per scenario basis, may make some of those kind of weird. Maybe have too much effect, but we'll see. Alright, now we roll a single die for everybody. And everybody's going to be affected by the prestige adjustment. Now this is more severe than before. If your prestige is above 18, you're going to lose 2, but otherwise you just shift 1 towards 15 as you would in a general peace turn. And that is the end of that. That puts us up to 63. And we're going to get a minister. This time with a double E on him, which makes him a better statesman than Louis is, for whatever value that means. And we'll be in the spring shit turn, which is going to change the nature of things a little bit. For one thing, people can enter a war or something at this point, if there's an opportunity that looks interesting. All right, this one's going up as we're fighting our way through and beginning to get an idea. As we see, the military aspect of the game is actually remarkably light, maybe too light. I'm still a little concerned about the whole being able to march through territories. You know, in EU, the territories are about the same size as they are here in terms of the area that they cover. They take up less of the map because it's you know, so they're tiny little areas, and you got these big counters that don't really work well on it. But it's very hard in this period, and in fact, in most periods, to move at all because you have to conduct sieges. So in the course of a 5-year turn, you might get a couple of land areas. In this, it feels like you have a little bit too much mobility. On the other hand, in EU, and that makes a lot of sense when you're talking about, say, the Dutch border, or the Flanders area. Piercing the lines here, especially in this arrow, is very hard. There were significant fortresses all along that area. Especially once you get, to the age of Marlborough. It's clear you shouldn't be able to move as much as it feels you can in this game. Maybe more new fortresses show up in some of those other scenarios. I'm not sure how that's supposed to apply to the campaign game, but I would want to take them into account if that's the case. In terms of the East, however, things weren't fluid enough in EU. Here they feel appropriately fluid in the East, and it's, you couldn't have the lightning raids of Charles XII in EU. I feel like you can have them here, those kind of broad movements. All right, so I guess this one's going up. I'm rather fatigued.